Dum, 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 dum. Oh, I guess I was a day off on that. I was a day off on my reminder. One of these days, I'll figure out how to do the StreamYard. We'll figure it out. Well, we're waiting for people to come in because apparently they'll be here tomorrow. Because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to cover this for those of you who may recall a month and a half, 2 months ago, or whenever the first mask thing came around. I did a video out of my due diligence to say, they wrote this exact scenario out, and I said they're going to do the masks again, and they're going to say there's going to be a second coming, a second COVID coming, and that will be coming in the fall. Okay, so far that's taking place. It's taking place right now. Now, according to the old plan that they wrote 10 years ago called Lockstep, part of a Rockefeller plan, there's supposed to be a third wave that's actually supposed to be something that actually hurts people. And that's the idea with that. But the point being is that this has all been written down long in advance. And being that they don't seem to care that, Trump, everyone loves Trump, great conservative guy, or supposedly. He's doubled the national debt from like 18 trillion to just about 30 trillion. And nobody seems to care. And that's because they plan to do a great reset of the economy. And so that's what's going on. And some people don't know what I'm talking about. So I figured I would cover it briefly. I know it's late, and I'll probably do a follow-up live stream more time conducive to like evening where more people can participate. But ideally what I want to do is like a solutions stream to talk about, rather than just crying about masks and crying about this and that and everything going to hell in a handbasket. We talk about solutions and what people can do now, knowing that this is going to be taking place. Okay, it's not a matter of if, it's a question of when they're going to have this reset thing go through. Now remember, they already got the COVID plan out there. We already told you. There'd be round 2, and now we're in the midst of round 2, and there supposedly is a round 3 planned if we don't, if we're not enslaved enough by the end of round 2, there'll be a round 3 that actually hurts people. That'll be something different other than COVID. Who knows about that? But in the plan now, in the mix of things, is this great reset of the economy, which, could be a good thing. I mean, if you're ready for it, it certainly isn't going to be bad. It's like we do have a couple people here. Hey, Ray. Hey, Tina. Excellent. So we'll take a look at this article. This is from Stopping Socialism. This is actually an article from back in June. And it's pulling out an announcement. This is actually the World Economic Forum, their page, and the communism article is about referring directly to this, where they're talking about now is the time for the Great Reset, their little button, and they don't want to, they're talking specifically about COVID's the perfect time to reset the world economy. Okay, so what do they have planned? We'll go to this one because they kind of pull out quotes and narrow it down to a little bit more concise information. So those people probably in the United States here, Canada, and many countries, they have all these arbitrary rules put in place that pretty much destroy their businesses. That's on purpose. And then there are ones that are large multinational corporations that they are chosen to succeed, like Walmart and all these other big businesses, that they can push their policy through, right? If they want to wear masks, they can't, and at least in America, they can't just force people to wear masks, but they can force businesses to make people wear masks. And that's how they get control, by bypassing constitutions and rights and all of this stuff. So let's see. Global elites announce Great Reset plan, and it's even more radical than the Green New Deal. The New Deal referring back to Roosevelt. At a virtual World Economic Forum meeting, global leaders from the United Nations, United Kingdom, United States, International Monetary Fund, and multinational corporations discussed and announced a plan to develop a great reset of the entire world economy. they announced the plan. They didn't just come up with it. Just like they did not just come up with the COVID plan. They came up with that 10 years ago. We have a golden opportunity to see something good from this COVID-19 crisis. Their Jesuitical approach. Its unprecedented shockwaves may well make people more receptive to big visions of change. Hail New World Order, says Prince Charles, one of the leaders of the event. If you can't trust a royal family member, I don't know who you can trust. The purpose of the Great Reset is to use the coronavirus pandemic as a justification. Attendees repeatedly referred to it as an opportunity to completely overhaul the entire global economy, including the U.S. economy, to make a more equitable world and to fight climate change. What does climate change have to do with anything? Because it's globalism, which was on numerous occasions identified as the world's next great crisis. It's been a crisis for like 30 years, I figure, but whatever. We're in a solar minimum right now, by the way, which goes into, we want to talk about like solutions to some of these problems that this is going to cause with small businesses going under, being reliant on giants that are propped up like Walmart and Amazon. And what are you going to do about that when we're in a solar minimum here, where it's going to be harder and harder to grow food in the coming years? In an article published on the World Economics Forum website, WEF founder, Chairman Klaus Schwab said the world must act jointly and swiftly to revamp all aspects of our societies and economies, from education to social contracts and working conditions. All of these things have been done through COVID. Okay, all of these things. I got a nice little video. Every country from the United States to China must participate, and every industry from oil and gas to tech must be transformed. In short, we need a great reset of capitalism. And that's what's going on right now, is they're resetting it to remove all capitalism, to where you just have big business like Amazon and Walmart and Disney and those big corporations that will rule over any sorts of policies that they want to put in place. And if you want to shop here, instead of having the little points card that's on your keychain, right, you got to have a chip or something. And or even just a card on your keychain. And in order to shop at that place, you got to wear full protective gear, face shield, goggles, mask, and everything in order to shop at the store. And the only ones who are going to be getting product through the supply chain are those stores like Walmart and all these ones that have really draconian policies. Your local business guy down the corner who owns a Quickie Mart, he's not going to get anything. That's how all of this stuff comes about and how it's all controlled. We need to design policies to align with investment in people and the environment. But above all, the longer-term perspective is about rebalancing economies. Right, it's redistribution of wealth. That's really what it is. We need more peasants. We need more peasants. And anytime anyone says anything about resetting the economy, they're talking essentially about America. Okay? I realize there's other strong economies out there and countries that are doing really well, like Sweden, of course, because all the global banks are set up there. And countries around there, but those are like little itty bitty minuscule countries with their own thing going on. America is a huge country, and we're the economic global reserve currency for everything. So when they start talking about redoing the world economy, they're talking exclusively about America. Echoing these points, Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, called for building equal, inclusive, sustainable societies that are more resilient in the face of pandemics and climate change. Equal, inclusive, sustainable societies. Okay, that's everyone living in a 500 square foot economy apartment in a smart building. That's what that means. Jennifer Morgan, the executive director of Greenpeace International, oh boy, said the world should use the current crisis to push the reset button, similar to what occurred after World War II, when Morgan says we set up a new world order. So they tell you right there in these documents, they set up a new world order after World War II. Okay. And the old Eisenhower went on to talk about the military industrial complex, he talked about the medical industrial complex, and I forget what the other one was, but he talked about all three of those things. Eisenhower saying, watch out for the future. All these things are coming. And that guy was a like 33-degree Mason himself. Just letting you know. But to everyone who thinks that this isn't this is an actual disease or whatever virus or whatever it is, you're out of your mind. This was a story that was told as a psyop 10 years ago, and they decided to go with that plan to reset the economy. So they pushed through the old COVID thing. That's all it was. They're telling you right here exactly how it happened. They set up their New World Order really in America, got its grips after World War II. Became the money leader and the world leader, made that transfer. We set up a new world order after World War II, Morgan said. Now we are in a different world than we were then. We need to ask, what can we be doing differently? The World Economic Forum has big responsibility, that as well, to be pushing the reset button and looking at how to create a well-being for people and for the earth. Oh, we're doing it for the earth. Other speakers of the virtual internet forum calling for a great reset included Ma Jun, the chairman of Green Finance Committee and China Society for Finance and Banking, and a member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the People's Bank of China. Bernard Looney, nice name, CEO of BP, a bunch of other people, MasterCard. WEF virtual event announced the launch of the Great Reset World Economy. More specific policy proposals will likely be deliberated in January 2021. Theme of this, which will also be the Great Resets. Right. So right now, at least until November, things are going to go along as planned, and probably for the next year total. But January 2021 is when they're going to look at, okay, what plans can we implement now to enslave people? What can we do now? I mean, they're obviously getting antsy, pushing through. I think they're a little premature with the mask thing, a little bit. And then they figured they would be premature, so that's why they backed off, and then they did wave 2, just like they planned to do. And then the next part is, of course, to do a plan 3 that actually hurts people, and then they're going to blame it on all people who wouldn't wear masks. That's what the plan is. And the World Economic document, what I have linked in the description is the link to the anti-communism site, but in there is the link that goes right to the horse's mouth, so to speak, about what the plan's already been set up. And for you don't know, the IMF, or International Monetary Fund, is basically the Jewish bank that controls the entire world. Okay, every country minus the ones, miraculously, the ones that America doesn't like, all have a Federal Reserve Bank that all goes, and the Federal Reserves all get their money from the International Monetary Fund. Okay, so it's the world system through them. Iran and North Korea are not a part of that system, amazingly. And who do we hate? Iran and North Korea. So we get ready for a war with Iran at some point here, in the next presidential term with Trump. Pretty much for sure, because you got to reset the entire world. That's part of the plan. Use America to do it. So what the idea is here is, what should we be doing to plan for this stuff? What do we got going on in chat? Max is a troll. I am a troll. I am not a Christian. No, I am a Christian. Definitely a troll, though. So now that you all know what's going on, we're going to take a look at some ideas. Is like, I don't know everybody's current situations, but there's been a lot of conspiracy theories and dissent pretty much ever since the whole 9/11 thing went down. And if you haven't incorporated at least some of those ideas into your life, you better start. You better start figuring out, like, if my power gets turned off for a month, what can I do? Where can I go for water? Is there a place outside the cities that I can go to? Your local stores are getting closed down, by themselves. They want to close down apparently because they're enforcing all this mask nonsense. And that's the last thing they should be doing, because people don't want the mask. They should, I mean, nobody has been fined, at least in Minnesota. I can't speak to all the other states, but nobody's been fined. Nobody's been ticketed. They're not enforcing anything. And even if they come out with a draconian law that obviously violates Constitution and everything else, until they try to enforce it, no law has been broken. There is no problem. They've been trying to throw out walls on a variety of different issues. They all go to the judge, and the judge says he hasn't broken the law yet because nobody's been fined. So nobody, these small business are doing this stuff when they don't have to. They're enforcing masks and they're doing this and they're doing that, and people don't like it. Now, who's going to suffer more? Walmart, who survives on government grants, or the local hardware store owned by a guy who probably works there behind the counter half the time? The local hardware store guy is going out of business. So, and that's the guy who is the most upset about the masks. Who really really got to push the mask on people, because they think by doing that they're being compliant and then they'll be left alone by the government. That's not the way that it works. Enforcing that garbage on their employees and all that is criminal, in my opinion. Wink, wink, nod, nod to people. You should probably look at that. So these businesses are begging. The small businesses are begging to go out of business. They don't see it for whatever reason. They don't see it, and everyone's going to be left with a Walmart that they're going to have to go to, or some other big box store. And part of the price you pay to go into these big box stores is you got to wear the mask. You got to wear some goggles, social distancing, no kids allowed, blah, 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 blah. And you won't have any options. They're going to be the only place left. And eventually they'll only let you in maybe if you got the vaccine on your little scanner card. It says that you're safe to shop, and you're in the Walmart club. You're safe to shop at Walmart because you've got all your shots, just like a puppy dog. All right. And it's sad to see, but I don't think anyone's going to wake up. Okay. The baby boomers are too gelatin head. All these guys that own these businesses to see it coming. But who do you think is going to survive an economic reset? Harvey, who owns the hardware store, or the local gas station, or Walmart? Who do you think? Who do you think is going to come out on top of that? All right. So the people out there that own small businesses and know people who own small businesses, related to people with small businesses, you better talk to them and say, if you want to save your business, you better stick up for your customers. And if they are threatening you with your $1,000 fine, take the fine. Take the fine, because those customers that you're badgering to put on masks are going to remember you. They're going to remember you because you're a private business owner. You're not a nameless, faceless corporation where if they get hassled by a guy in a wheelchair, they're not going to think twice much about it because it's a big, nameless, faceless corporation. But a small business where they know they're talking to the owner, or a place of only 5 or 6 employees, they're going to take it personal. Okay. And they're never going to shop there again. Just letting you be aware who's going to survive the economic reset. So we've established that these local businesses, unless you're like a bar, are pretty much going to go out of business, because everyone's just going to want to sit at the bar because they're not going to want to deal with it. So that leaves you with Walmart, and it leaves you with Amazon. Well, what if your internet goes out? Are you going to get your stuff from Amazon? Who's going to actually have the supply? There's a lot of things to think about with what's going on, depending on your situations. If you live in a city, you really don't want to be in a city. I don't know if you all noticed the George Floyd body tape cam thing came out. And I don't know if it's a hoax faked, like he's an actor, or what they did. But if you take it just on face value, just pretend, the whole thing is legit. George Floyd asked to be put on the ground because he was saying he couldn't breathe from the start, and asked to be put on the ground, resisting arrest the entire time. All right. So I don't know what's going to go on with the whole race relations thing, but I'm sure it's going to get twisted around backwards and forwards because they're probably going to let the cops go. Why they even arrested them in the first place with the body cam footage, which is why I think that was actually faked, because you'd never arrest a guy for attempted murder when you have the body cam footage of the guy having problems and asking to be put on the ground. I don't know. So we're going to have, Portland, Oregon is still burning down, apparently. You don't hear much about it on the news, though, but it is all these many months later, right? So if you're in a city, you should probably do your best to, see where you could maybe go that's outside of the city. But then outside of the cities, you have these problems where you have mostly small local stores that are privately owned by regular old people. And unfortunately, a lot of them are just going to get closed down because the government chooses who's going to succeed and fail. I don't know what the barbers have been doing for 6 months. I have no idea. So we'll take a look at chat here. Hey, Jack, how's it going? Blessed hope, hoping to get raptured. Well, yeah, we're all hoping for rapture, but we can't plan on that like it's our escape. We have to plan to be here and plan to get ready for it. Walmart is tied with the federal government. Yep. That's what I'm saying, is that they're globalist corporations. Disney and Walmart and all that stuff, they're all globalist corporations, which is why you wonder, like the state of Hollywood, why they put out such garbage. It's because they're a globalist entity. There's some country somewhere that likes that. I don't know. Walmart, it's a globalist entity. And you're not going to compete if you're owning a store or running a store against Walmart, who gets a lot of subsidies from the government to initiate certain things. If you notice, when you go into a Walmart, you've got face scanning all over the place in there. All of their biometric stuff and the self checkouts and all that stuff, that's all implemented through Walmart. I don't think Walmart even needs to sell anything really to make a profit. So those are things to think about, like with the economic reset, what does that really mean? And well, what it would mean to me is you probably look at buying, if you actually have any money, transferring into something else, like real stuff like property or something that will actually have value. Because if if you have a lot of debt, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if the dollar is worth 1/1000th, say a year from now, well, then you could maybe pay off $100,000 house with $100. Who knows, or equivalent with inflation rates. It's hard to say with that, but I think in these days you got to look at how you can limit your vulnerability. If you call it liability, or what the corporations would call it, liability. As far as the mask go and all of that, and any sort of vaccines, if anyone asks you for masks or vaccines or whatever for workplaces, you can turn the liability and make sure that the company understands that the liability is 100% on them, which it is already, just by them asking you to wear a mask or take a vaccine. But if you enforce that or reinforce that by making them sign a document that says that they're liable for it, more than likely they'll just leave you alone, because that would be too high of much of a liability. Even though they know they're responsible, they can't just go to court and fight it out for 5 years. You show up there with a document that says they're responsible, then they can't really do anything. And they don't like liability. They don't like it. So you can defeat a lot of these things like that, but you can't defeat power going out for a month, right? You have to have some other options. and where you're getting your food from, if you have dried storable food or anything like that, and think about supply chain and things that you wouldn't normally think of, like light bulbs. I mean, if there's a run on light bulbs, we can maybe talk a little bit about supply chain. This is a very dumbed down idea of what supply chain is. All right, Jack, we'll see you later. So yeah, you got your supplies. They go to a manufacturer, to distributors, and then they go to retailers and end user. It's a lot more complicated than this. But let's say there's, what happens in a retailer here and Walmart and every single big box store out there is it's all computer driven, the entire supply chain, which is why everyone was out of toilet paper for a month. So you've got 10, we'll just say 10 rolls of Charmin on the shelf, right? And the store knows it normally sells 2 rolls of Charmin a day, right? So its supply chain is already set up to order 2 every day, or however much that would be in a week. Well, people come in and there's a run on toilet paper and they sell out, and whatever is in the back room, a couple of rolls, never very much, goes out on the shelf and it sells out. Well, the computer is just told to order 10 more. Okay. It's not told to order 30 more because it's in real demand. It's just told to keep the stock inventory level up to a certain point. So that's why stores are completely out of something like toilet paper, that they could just turn the machine up at the factory and spit out lots more toilet paper. It doesn't matter because the computer is not telling them to ship out that much more toilet paper, right? Because that all goes back to the manufacturer. How much or they're getting for orders. Their orders have not gone up at all because the computer system at Walmart here is telling them they're still ordering the same amount, right? It's only until someone goes in there and manually changes things, which it's Walmart. That's not going to happen. So this is how shortages happen in the supply chain. There's, as soon as a book at a bookstore sells, as soon as one book sells, they order one more. They don't order a dozen. They order one more. So if the book gets really popular and people buy the 3 copies on the shelf, they'll only order 3 more. They are not going to order 20 more because the person happens to be doing a book signing. They'll order 3 more because the computer told them to. That's how supply chain works. When there is a legitimate shortage of supplies, whomever has the biggest need is where the stuff goes. Okay. So if they're legitimately out of toilet paper, okay, Walmart is a lot more higher priority customer than Jim Bob's local convenience store. So all of the supply then goes to Walmart because that services the greater amount of people. They're in the densely packed zones of people. And yeah, that's where your supply is going. It's not going to go to your local stores. That they want to go out of business anyway at your local store. So whatever. And that, of course, leaves you with basically Amazon in the rural areas. Well, what happens with Amazon in some of the places that could go lawless, if whether or not they're going to deliver, whether or not the internet's going to work, or how that's going to be all backed up. So a lot of different things to consider with that. It's time for the Great Reset. Some ways, let's see. Granted, I live in a house, and a lot of people may not have may not live in a house or maybe in an apartment. Hopefully you have family or somebody who actually has a house of some sort or something, but it's never too late to learn how to grow things. Okay. I have the very basic stuff like a water filter, always a great idea. Always have your water filter. A generator if you've got a house. They're not very expensive, couple $100. Just replaced a freezer, haven't gotten it yet, but yeah, being able to freeze a decent amount of food is probably going to be a good idea. Look at where you're, like heating and stuff like that. How are you going to heat? In Minnesota here, we get to -20 pretty much every winter. Yeah, some things to think about. People are so used to the world working at the click of a button, and then the next day I had a package show up, I think 10 hours later after I ordered it from Amazon Prime. that probably is not going to be the future of things. Just letting you know. All right, fellas that are checking out. Have a good one. Good night. This is essentially the plan, as I have read through, to prove that it's a real thing. It's not just a crazy conspiracy idea about the great economic reset and what that could possibly mean. And I think what I'll probably do is maybe do one tomorrow or later on in this weekend to maybe go over solutions or something, some better solutions or what people can do to get ready for this stuff. You do still have some time. I mean, you got at least until Trump is in, and then it's going to take him time to get in and, tell some jokes, talk about space Marines or something he was talking about, and do their little political thing. Meanwhile, in the background, it's an economic reset. The reason that this COVID thing is like complete and total nonsense, and they're just going to push through it anyway, is because they need to keep the baby boomers glued to their televisions so they don't worry about their 401ks and their pensions that are all going to go bye-bye when they do their great economic reset. And that's very troubling for them. And yeah, they just couldn't handle it. So they got to huff and puff on a mask and tell everyone else to put on a mask to make them feel better, because otherwise, they can't face reality. But, if we're grown-ups here and we can face reality, we look at like what possibly we can do. I mean, I think the best thing that anyone can do out there is learn a skill, know how to do something outside of the internet or outside of anything that requires computers, crafts, growing stuff, being able to build stuff out of wood, and learn how to do some of that stuff. It's probably going to be very beneficial, because you got to think that when we're in times of economic crisis, we're also vulnerable, and pretty much every country in the world hates America. So you never know what kind of military conflicts or what kind of treaties or what kind of trade is going to be going on, to where someone actually suggested, when they were looking at what they're doing, is they're actually buying some cheap China goods now, because in the economic reset, if we're not friendly with China anymore, which is probably going to be the case, because China is becoming the new America, to where they have too much money to be slaves anymore. So they want somebody else to do it, somebody poorer than them, to be their slaves, so that they could be nihilist, hedonistic, wicked people like the Americans. So they want to do that, and they don't want to build our stuff anymore. So someone suggested, buying, like, if you need a new computer, buy a computer while it's cheap, because you never know. We don't manufacture anything in America anymore. So if there's something that you need to get, there's no time like now if you've got the money, because your money is likely only really going to go down in value until, the great reset. Hey, Frank, how's it going? So the superstores have a monopoly on products. Yes, Frank, because they are little government puppets, and they get priority because they have the expression is too big to fail. If you're too big to fail, you're basically another wing of the government. And of course you're going to have priority on all the products. So you've got a supply of like 10,000 pallets of toilet paper. You're going to send 9,999 to Walmart for their warehouses to feed their superstores. And you're going to take one pallet and give 2/3 of that pallet to the people who work at the store, so they keep boxing up toilet paper for you. And you'll take the few remaining rolls and you'll ship those off to the local mom and pops. That's pretty much how it goes. And then they send a nice little note on top that says, "Sorry, we ran out." And that's supply chain for you. Slaughter your own meat helps in hunting. I bought a bow and arrow so I can go poaching. I don't know too much about that, but I have it. I bought the last one, so apparently some other people have the good idea. From what I hear, from back in Depression era, there wasn't a bird, a squirrel, a chipmunk, nothing There's nothing around because everybody with a pellet gun was shooting them for dinner. And, you know, I don't know if we're going to get to be like that. I think the New World Order has understood that, you know, they like the chaos, but they like it controlled, and they don't like people losing their minds, because when they lose their minds a bit, they become unpredictable. Like I don't think that they foresaw the Minneapolis City Council saying we're not going to fund the police anymore. I don't think that they saw that. They're really trying to go back on the police thing, but I think it's kind of already a done deal. They don't want anyone else to do that, which is why, you know, I think the George Floyd thing coming out was part of that. To where, see, you know, the police were doing good. They were doing good now, guys. We were just holding on to this body cam footage for 4 months for no reason. Yeah, no, I think that was, they're trying to keep their cops. They're trying to keep all their crooked cops and keep the crooked system going. So they want to keep they that's why they backed out of that riot stuff pretty quick. And we're going to go back to masking up the weak, mush-minded, zombified, vaccinated baby boomers that pop pills like Tic Tacs because that thinks it makes them healthy, and whatever else, you know. I mean, that's how it's going to be. And yeah, I'm going to be very tough on baby boomers, okay? Because, you know, I know a couple, like my parents, and from what I gather, a lot of other people's parents are a lot like the same way. These people who came from a generation of fairly tough and strong people, our grandparents, who had their own problems, mind you, but they at least had skills, right? And had some sort of morality. And then it gets handed off, and their children become total communists. And it's wild. It's wild. But, you know, it's we get what we deserve. And, you know, the whole thing with when I talk about Walmart, I remember in the 80s when I was a kid that everything was going to start going to China, and the businesses were begging Americans to buy the goods. And they said, look, made in America, made in America. We want to keep our business here. Look, Saturn Car Company, all America, 100% made in America. And the baby boomers did not want that. I want to get my Cheetos for 5 cents less. I want really cheap sneakers. I don't care if it's slave labor. I don't care. I want to abort my kids. I want me. You know, and then they say, support our troops. You know, the whole thing is ridiculous. But even me, as a kid, and even into my early 20s, understood the importance of buying American stuff and supporting America. But hey, the vast bulk majority population did not. They wanted cheap sneakers. And this is what it comes down to. This is what we get, the Great Reset, where China becomes the economic power and all that. So, yeah. Just to let you know, Walmart in the 80s, you know what sold Walmart? 100% made in America in Walmart. Do you believe that? 100% made in America in Walmart. Okay? People wanted cheap sneakers, though. And all of these businesses said, well, I guess that's what the people want. And they all went to China. So in the economic reset, you know, we don't manufacture anything in America, hardly anything anymore. So if you need something from China, now's the time to buy. Wherever stuff comes from, because you don't know that supply chain is going to be there whenever they push the button. Frank, I got a tag for everyone in my family to shoot more than one deer to stock the freezer for the year. Hey, that's a great idea. I haven't seen any deer around here, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. There's less wildlife here than in the cities. Pick up the apples that are all over the roads. There you go. There you go. We know what somebody's doing. Bob, one world government, here we come. Well, it already is to a sort of an extent. It already is one world government if you look at it from this aspect of the International Monetary Fund, Jewish-run bank, runs all of the money, 100%. The spiritual governance is run, of course, by the Catholic Church, as well as many other things by the Catholic Church, but that's their part to play. The slave laborers got the Chinese there, and you got the royal families in there, and we're the military arm of the New World Order. We were the economic arm also, but nah, not anymore. I guess we're too expensive, and we are all too fat and lazy here in America to do anything, even raise our kids or anything like that, or take care of our beloved baby boomer parents that shuffled us off to school and told us that great thing of going to college. We all need to get, $50 to $100,000 in debt. Hey, Dad, where's that money coming? Well, you can take out a loan, son. You can take out a loan, son. Thanks, Dad. I appreciate that. Any more lies you got for me, Dad? Yeah. I'm not bitter at all. No. But then they wonder why they get put off into a home. It's like, yeah, because you did that to me. What? You get a generation that doesn't want to raise their kids because they've got better things to do, apparently. Both mom and dad, we all got to work because we both have student loans, and we want 2 or 3 cars. We want 4-wheelers. We want boats. We want all this stuff. And well, we're already paying taxes to the government so they can raise our kids. See, that's the whole deal there. Well, the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Terrible, terrible. And so here we are. Now it all comes to a head because all of these people are retiring. And I don't know if I have it up. In Minnesota, at least, the Minnesota's hidden pension problem. If you look up like how many pensions and what their funding rate is by state, no one's pensions fully funded. This was just in 2017, and Minnesota's was only 80% funded. And that was after only a couple of years before that, it was 100%. So it's already down to 80. By now, I'm sure it's like 40%. Because, yeah. And the other states, and Minnesota was one of the better ones at this time. But all of these people, get paid, from their teacher job, 60 grand a year. And then, of course, whenever they decide to retire, they earn their paychecks until they die. And then their spouse does. And all this stuff. And there's no money for this anymore. That's why they're, want to shut down schools, and they want to do all this other stuff and do the great economic reset. The great economic reset. And there's more problems than just this. Like insurance companies, all of the people that actually put money into insurance companies for times of trouble. There's this thing in here that's called business interruption insurance, which means that you're insured against if there's a natural disaster, calamity, or some sort of event that puts you out of business for a couple of months, you're insured against that. COVID-19 completely qualifies, but because it's a hoax and it's an obvious hoax, the insurance companies are all fighting against it. They don't want to pay out for the loss of business to these restaurants and things like that. And there's this one here is just 42 in Chicago, and 700 businesses, ones that they have so far, and none of these places want to pay out. And you're going to see a lot of what's called Jewish lightning, where people are burning down their own stores for the insurance money. There's going to be a lot of that coming. And he's got a plan for this whole big economic ship to go over the falls and see what happens with it. And of course, in America, it's largely a financial thing and just messed up vegetable people that have been coddled with lollipops their entire life and can't do anything for themselves. Those are the problem. But other countries here, like in Australia, they don't really have rights. So they just lock them up. Like I realize Australia was founded by like slaves and criminals and stuff who kind of took over the indigenous population. But then the government takes over and they immediately put their people in slavery for COVID. And it's interesting. And, in these countries, they can actually pass laws like this and it's COVID. Well, COVID is nonsense. Well, so what? They don't care. Where you can go out an hour a day to go exercise, and you can only go with one other person, and you can only go to and from work, and you're quarantined between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. And there's other countries for you. So for anyone who says, "Oh, it never happened in America," well, you know, all of when I meant about the new world order is it's already here. There is one system of law that's worldwide, and that's admiralty law. And that's what America is different in that we still have common law, but most other countries it's admiralty, which means everybody's a corporation and you only just get corporate rights. And this is what happens. You decide you're going to go in there. But what about the Constitution? They don't care about your Constitution. I don't care about that. And so what's coming, man? Great economic reset plan. So hopefully here, been going for a little bit here for 45 minutes or so. Hopefully here in the future, we'll do an entire stream of happy thoughts and what we're going to do to, what's the best things to be doing right now. Sitting around and watching the news is probably not one of them. Stop watching the news. It doesn't matter what's going on in the news. Don't worry. Don't waste brain cells trying to make sense of any of this stuff. COVID's a hoax. We know it. Wearing a mask is dumb. It's dumb. I mean, obviously, if you have to because your employer, whatever, that's your own deal. But if you're going to go shop in a store, don't wear a mask. They need your money. You're exempt. Everybody is exempt. Okay. Do I think that is there any way to turn this stuff around? Well, I guess there's always a chance. And it depends a lot on the areas that people are living. I am in kind of a communist bastion myself with the Twin Cities in Minnesota here. I'm 50 miles away outside the Twin Cities, but still, it's pretty liberal. And some other areas probably won't have that big of a problem as far as that goes. But what happens when the money runs out? People's government checks don't come. What happens when everyone's out of toilet paper? When they some people think they're intentionally defunding the police. What happens when that happens? I don't think that they are. I think that they're going to have more money for police. But, if they defund the police, can you protect yourself? A very good thing to be doing is getting to know your neighbors and make sure you're on good terms with all of them so they can watch your back. That sort of thing. But anyways, the whole point of this stream was essentially just to notify people. So I don't have to say that I'm holding back any information. I have my good karma going to go, yeah, this is what's happening. Just like with the mask thing. Told you all the deal that there's going to be phase 1, 2, and possibly phase 3. I don't believe phase 3 is happening, but it's totally possible. And this is the reason for COVID is the great economic reset. This is the reason nobody cares that we're mathematically impossible. It's mathematically impossible for America to pay off $30 trillion. Okay. This is the reason you can't go into a bank and get change. Okay. There's a lot of things going on here. Oh no, we can't use cash because money is dirty, right? For a fake virus. Money is dirty. There's a lot of things here that all add up and point to great reset. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. So I'm here doing my due diligence to tell people, you're looking at these Chinese computers and stuff. Well, I guess there's no time like now. Transfer your cash into, debt is not a good thing. But transfer cash that you have into tangible assets. Okay. Buy your goodies in your computers because who knows where the supply chain is coming from that. If you get something from some other country right now, maybe you want to stock up a bit. Of course, stock up on your toilet paper. All right. Have coolers or, have some extra food around. In case old Jim Bob at the corner store goes out of business, which he will if he's requiring people to wear masks. He's begging for it. If not by the people, customers not shopping there, by him getting sued by his employees. So it's only a matter of time before those guys are done. So that's what's going on there. Josh Rubio, the whole thing with toilet paper was weird. Why was it even happening in the first place? Josh, if you weren't here for a half hour ago, I explained supply chain. And it happens because the entire supply chain is run by computers. Like all of it. Even it's called point of sale interface, where everything is in a computer system and you scan it. That all goes to a database in the store, and it's a ordering software. So if you carry 5 of a product on your shelf, somebody buys one, it ticks a flag in your database, and say your threshold is set at, once somebody buys 2 of them, it creates an order to order more. And that's how many you normally sell, is 2 in a month, right? You track your metrics. Well, when someone comes in and buys all of them, the software only knows to order what your normal amount is. It doesn't order extra for any reason unless somebody goes in there and changes it. So in this thing where people are rushing to Walmart and they're gearing up for the apocalypse, even though there's plenty of supply sitting in the warehouses, it's not going out to anybody because just the regular amount of goods are going to all the stores and they're getting bought up right away. Whereas the abundance is sitting in the distributors. It's just sitting there. And of course, when you have a situation like that, like your sort of quasi apocalypse, who knows whether or not truck drivers are going to be driving and that sort of supply chain. But it's not like local stores, like a privately owned grocery store, okay, would say, oh, okay, we've got a pandemic sort of thing. Instead of ordering 1 case of toilet paper, I will order 10 cases of toilet paper, and I will order 10 cases of such and such stuff that people would probably stock up on, things that can sit in a warehouse or sit in the back room. See, none of these businesses like Walmart have anything really in the back because it's wasted space. That space that they have that they're not filling. Everything comes in on trucks on a daily basis. So you have a run on the supply. The store is out until the next truck comes, even though the warehouse is full of the stuff. And that's how fragile the supply chain is in America. And it works for America because our infrastructure is so good. Gas is relatively cheap and it works decent. But as soon as you get a little bit of a hiccup in it, like power out at the warehouse, well, now your stuff is going to be off by a couple of days until they get power out. If you get power out at places, that messes the whole deal up. One thing I don't think is going to go out is the internet because they want to keep people mind controlled. And part of that is keeping the power on too. So I think that we'll at least have that. Whether or not they turn your water off or gas or whatever is a different story. But some stuff I think you're going to have. The cities would be all right. People who live out in rural areas should have their stuff together where they have a generator or they have other means of getting electricity and communications and things like that. This is going to be this is 2020 for a reason. You got to see this stuff coming, 2020 vision, and you got to be responsible for yourself because the government isn't going to be there to give everybody lollipops. That's not the way that this is going to go. This is a great reset. All right. That's going to be a great reset is not just talking economical. It's talking about social status. It's going to talk about hierarchies. It's going to talk about government roles. And, it's going to be the whole deal. They'll try and do it all at once to keep people confused and just looking for someone to go to lead me out of this craziness. AKA baby boomers who aren't going to know what to do. That's where they're going to go. But it's my job to help people. Well, not really my job. I feel it is my duty to help people, understand, you're protected by God a bit, but you got to help yourself. You can't be looking for lollies out there and expecting, your 401k to carry you through and, oh, I got all this money and I got gold stored up. Well, what if the stores don't have any product? Then what good's your gold? It's worth nothing. If food is scarce, you could have, an ounce of gold on you worth $2,000 right now. And a farmer's not even going to sell you an apple for it because the apple is more important than your $2,000 worth of gold. So that is what's going on. I'll take another brief look at chat, and I think what I'll do is I'll do a part 2 either tomorrow or Saturday, and hopefully I have good plans. Give everybody a chance to look at, the information that I have put forward so that they can, think about it a little bit and come out with some good ideas and some good plans and good things that people can do realistically to help prepare for this upcoming stuff. Yeah, no problem. No problem, Josh. Let's see. What was it? I thought I saw something in here. Could the Constitution be changed? Frank, I don't know what you mean. I don't know about your Constitution and what you got going. Our Constitution can be amended, but it doesn't make a difference because we are all corporations. A person in legal form is a corporation, and corporations only have right to due process under the law. This is what the whole sovereign citizen movement thing is about. Is all laws and statutes are written that you are actually a corporation lost at sea. Okay, it's especially true for you, Frank, because you're in Canada. All of the laws that they write, they don't even apply to people who live in Canada. So just letting you know. But that's a whole big deep rabbit hole. So because you're a corporation and people identify as corporations, right? Because of the corporation is created with their birth certificate, all capital letters. They're birthed like a ship. Okay, that's what that means. Written on bond paper. And that is how governments can continuously borrow money because it's based on your blood, sweat, and tears equity that's in that birth certificate. They say, this life is going to be worth $10 million by the time it dies, and so that they can borrow $10 million against your bond. So you're a slave. You're a bond slave is what you are. And they create a corporate identity with that, and that's how they set up all commerce is through corporate IDs. Okay, so the Constitution is for real, living, breathing men and women, not for corporations. So the people who don't know this stuff, they associate themselves as being the birth certificate name on all capital letters. But that's not what it is. You use that. You have to, it's unlawful to not engage commerce without using your birth certificate name. That's just the way the law is. Okay. So when you're doing business, buying a car, buying a house, whatever, you're using your corporate identity. But a lot of these other laws, they're trying to apply these laws like no spitting on the sidewalk to a corporation. And it's like, well, a corporation's dead. It can't spit on the sidewalk. So obviously they mean me. And that's how they get you. Okay. If you go in there and you say, oh, no, I'm a real man, I think you have a mistaken identity. That's what that whole thing is about. Admiralty law is how people are being ruled. And all of their money is from the International Monetary Fund. It's all debt money. Okay. They got you there. And the people who run the show are all the king and the queen of England and all of these Freemason Illuminati guys. That's how they got the whole thing down. But the thing is, they got people by compliance, right? They got people because they've agreed that they don't want to produce anything for themselves. They want their children to be raised by the state. They want the state to take care of their parents when they're of old age. And, they just want to consume. Who can give me the cheapest product? Consume, ka-chung, ka-chung. That's the baby boomers. All the way through. And now the whole thing is falling apart. I mean, it's got to deal with it. Okay. But the way to defeat this stuff is just be self-sufficient to an extent and build things, learn things, do things for yourself. Don't let the state raise your kids, teach them how to masturbate in grade school, and teach them that Timmy really wants to be Sandy and y'all have to share the same bathrooms and all this nonsense. I mean, it's obvious you can't run a system that's so debased from morality and have it expect to last very long. Okay, this is what happens. So we got to, in America, when you go back to the whole Constitution thing, okay, in America, it's a little bit different because we still have common law, right? So America is really the only free country that I'm aware of, but people don't exercise their freedom except to give their rights away. People in America are so free they can sign away their rights. And one of the biggest things with this mask deal is like, even if they could pass a law requiring people to wear masks, a person can say, I have a right to get sick. Therefore, the law would be unconstitutional. Okay. This is, and it's constitutionally wrong because you have a right to contract to get sick if you want to, just like people have a right to for assisted suicides and things like this. Okay, people have a right to do whatever they want to in America, including giving all their rights away. And the people that want to give their rights away are going to give their rights away. There was a big thing about, and Alex Jones about the FEMA camps, right? The FEMA camps. And, you know, you know what those things are is people are going to want to go to those FEMA camps. That's what those things are there for, are the people that aren't prepared for the supply chain to break down, are mad their internet is out and they can't get their Amazon stuff, and their money, you know, a dollar is worth a penny. You know, you have all these problems and they wait to the last second. Those are the people that are going to go to the FEMA camps because they can't pay their $500,000 mortgages. They're working at a useless job with no skills. Their company figured out that they're paying them for nothing. And they're going to go to the FEMA camp. Okay. They're going to go in the bread line. The idea behind this here is coming up with ways to prevent people from going to the bread line. People who know all this stuff is phony baloney and can see all through this stuff. It's 2020. Use your vision. And with God's help you find solutions and remedies for the problems that will be coming. Okay. It's not a matter of if, guys. It's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. So that's what I've got. Information's out there. We'll do something here in the next day or two. They have to put on amendments to appeal the amendment and write the amendment appealing. For the Constitution, it's something like 2/3 of the legislation, and it has to be a common vote amongst the people to actually create an amendment. It's almost impossible, which is amazing. They actually, once upon a time, there's actually an amendment on the Constitution that says you can't sell liquor. It's amazing. Yeah, prohibition on alcohol. Yep. Yeah, and the times we're not going by Constitution because if you go into court, unless you're in a criminal case, because criminal cases, the laws are typically going to be actual real laws. They're not statutes. Some of them are statutes, but instead of using the word person, which means your corporation, it will use person. Person includes corporation, natural human being, natural man. It will say specifically that it's referring also to a natural person, and that does mean flesh and blood. So criminal offenses, most of the time, like you're talking like murder and all these ancient ones that have been around forever, those are actually a different sort of a thing. I think it's still admiralty law, but they have to acknowledge the Constitution. Whereas you go into like something for like a traffic ticket or something like that, they'll laugh at you if you bring up the Constitution. I don't care. Ray A, get some chickens, have a garden, and learn to do your own plumbing, electrician, etc. Need to have supplies to fix things you fix yourself. Absolutely correct, Ray A. That is what you do. And, you know, the thing is that you don't have to be an expert at raising chickens, although that's probably the easiest thing you can do. You don't have to be an expert plumber. You don't have to be an expert electrician, but at least try and know people who know how to do this stuff. Okay. At least try to know people. And that is really probably the biggest thing, is make sure people in your area like you and they'll watch your back. Very important right now. We're going out of our way a little bit to wheel and deal and barter some of the things that we have that we don't use around here off to the neighbors, because, you know, time's coming where I may not be here for a day or two or something, and kind of in a traumatic time. You never know what's going to happen. And it's nice to know there are people will be watching over my house. And of course, they know me and how crazy I am. I'm sure they have no problem me watching their house or whatever. So, you know, community is very important. Community of like-minded people. Learn how to make duct tape. Yes, On the list of things that people are going to have a run on is probably going to be duct tape. Duct tape, light bulbs, toilet paper, animal food, probably. Because people probably think to themselves, I don't know, what do cats eat? They eat cat food. Oh, I guess we're out of cat food. Well, yeah, the cats can eat whatever you're eating, but whatever. Cat food, sure. So there you have it. And that is what I got for now. It's getting late up there, and we'll do something later on this weekend. Frank, I don't know if you're still on here. If you want to come on and we can talk about solutions to the upcoming Great Reset, and what we can do to make it less painful for ourselves. Of course, God is always with us, but we need to not play dumb and play ignorant with this stuff and face it head on and take some responsibility for our own lives and not just say, well, God will deal with it. Okay. No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to sit and just complain about masks and all this stuff either without doing something about it and making, creating positive and uplifting and all that stuff, as we go. God loves cheerful givers and people who take care of themselves and working and eating and all of that. Okay, try to accomplish something every single day if you can. Even it doesn't even have to be much, but do something, accomplish something. That's a good place to start. And with that, we're going to be out of here.